where do you work and how do they reach out to you? You said to reach out to you, but you know, it's all right, cool. So yeah, so we're gonna be going for about another hour and 20 minutes. And after that, we're going to be heading out to dinner if you want to join us at Fibber McGee's, which is in Sunnyvale. You can Google it if you want the direction, on Murphy Street. And thank you to JFrog yet again for hosting us. That is very gracious, especially Ari. Oh.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Stephen Chin, VP of Developer Relations at JFrog. So if you have any compliments about the food or the venue or any of that stuff, please tell Ari, who helps organize and liaisons. If you have any complaints, come to me. you can complain to me about stuff. And part of the reason why we care a lot about the C and C++ community and CPPCon and all the great stuff here is because we have a lot of investments in the C community from the JFrog standpoint. Conan is an open source package manager, which I think we'll hear a little bit about tonight, which even though it's a JFrog project, we run it entirely as an open source separate effort. So it's separate from our product teams. It's run by Diego, who's awesome. And we keep it pure in the sense that it doesn't have any influence from our product side. So hopefully if you like Conan, you'll be interested in some of our DevOps solutions which integrate with it. But we just do that for supporting the C and C++ community and making it a great ecosystem. So thanks a lot for coming out tonight. Now, I have a quick question for the audience before I turn over the mic. So has anybody who signed up for the Echo? Raise your hand. Okay, so quite a lot of folks raised their hands. If you didn't sign up for the Echo, such as some folks in this row, pass this around and you can still scan until 7:45, I believe, is when we'll do Ari is going to do the drawing, and then we'll decide who gets the Echo. Even if you don't want the Echo, maybe a loved one, friend, coworker, etc. will appreciate it. So thanks, Max.
Or you could just pawn it, it's yours. Let's see. Well, the last thing I was supposed to say is to introduce the speaker and Conan, but I think Steve did a better job of that than I will. So I think I'm gonna turn it over now to Chris.
Hello. Oh, I apologize if I stutter at the beginning. I'm incredibly sensitive to audio lag, and because they play it through Zoom, it's very difficult for me. So bear with me for the first 5 minutes. I promise we'll get through this. If I share my screen. So today I'm going to be talking to you about Conan, and there's a very particular reason why I get to talk about Conan. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was working as a C and C++ developer at a hardware company, and we needed to use something called TLS, security. Ooh, golly, everybody hates that keyword, don't they? And no one wants to write OpenSSL from scratch. So what did we do? We said, oh, we'll use a package manager. That sounds like a fantastic idea, doesn't it? So we actually picked VC package. And after about 3 days, business leaders came down and said, oh, by the way, you have all these extra business legal requirements you need to meet for our customers. And then we switched to Conan. And that's how I got to go down this road. So I actually was a very large member of the Conan community before I even started working for JFrog. So if you go on my GitHub profile, you'll actually see years and years of contributions to Conan. And I've only recently started working here about 9 months ago. So just to give you a little bit of background. I do a ton of open source work as well. And one of the questions that I get a ton is, how do I add this project to my project? And I get beautiful comment with code snippets about CMake that I probably was written before I was born. We all know how great CMake 2 was. When they do find package open SSL, target link libraries, Libra SSL, and they have like different dependencies and targets. So what I want to do with you guys here today is to wake up from the nightmare of using external libraries with Conan. What I like to do for all my presentations is I like to pick a different open source library. And this one is going to be Drogo. It's a header compiled library that is a non-blocking networking. It's actually really popular on GitHub. And they have some beautiful installation instructions. You can specify your build types. You can install on Windows. Oh, look, they actually support Conan. I didn't even notice that. They also support VC package. And these instructions are hideous, but it works apparently. There's a lot more instructions. And then there's some more instructions. And oh, look, another package manager. Who wants to try to build this themselves? Yeah. Oh, one hand. Wow, we got a brave soul back there, guys. But this is probably not what you want to do, right? And like, if you look at this list of dependencies, you got Trantor. I've never heard of that one. JSON CPP, libuUID. I recognize that one. That's pretty standard in most distros. And when you try to do some of these, this is the build instructions for Boost if you wanted to build this for your own system. And then you try to look at JSON CPP. These guys have how many, they got like Bazel, CMake, Mesons. Where would you even start? That's the first reaction I had when I looked at this. And then lastly, you got OpenSSL, which has a ton of different instructions with a ton of different platforms and a ton of different variations. And I see a bunch of smiling, nodding faces at me because we've all been there. So today, I want to try to make your life a little bit easier. And most of you are smiling and nodding because this is a problem like 80% of us have according to this year's CPP Lite survey. I don't need to convince anybody of this problem. We're all living, breathing it, dreading it every night. If you didn't sleep last night, probably this, right? Yeah. So how do we address this? Package managers. Yeah, I know you're going to hate me for saying it, but they actually do a really good job. So they're worth looking into. Why package managers? What do they provide? They're quick and easy, access to a pool of quality open source. I'm an amazing developer, probably the best C++ developer in this room, according to nobody but myself, because that's the damn truth. There's a plaque at my last job crediting me for the great deletion of 2017. That's a title you really want to leave a company with. So you use package managers because you don't want to worry about your dependency graph. You don't want to know how many other projects are underneath what you're trying to use. And you want it to integrate, right? You want to be able to use whatever technologies you're already using and just get the dependencies you want. And you want to have awareness of platform compatibility. I didn't show you a Drogo, but they're only supporting C++ 14. OpenSSL has a different requirement. Depending on the version of Boost you pick, depending on which one they support, which I didn't even look into, you're going to get different compatibility and different support. And there's just a nightmare of complexity, right? So the reason you use a package manager is because it does this for you. And there's a ton of options. System distros, apt. We all love apt on Ubuntu. You got Brew for your Mac users. There's another one, Condo, which is cross-platform, works on everything. And you can even install a web browser with them, which makes them super convenient. Just take advantage of it. You can always build from source. There's some really good There's a really good package manager in this space. Hunter, VC package, CMake's fetch content, which was presented to us just a few months ago. And there's other ones like B2, which is a Boost build system you might not have heard of, but they actually have a mechanism for downloading dependencies, which I thought was cool. But those all work from source, and it's pretty painful to wait for Boost to compile. I actually tried doing it on my laptop without it plugged in, and I wonder why it died while I went to get a coffee. No surprises, right? But sadly, I made that mistake. So binary management, the only one on this list is Conan. And that's the one I'm going to talk to you about today. My big takeaway for this presentation, you don't have to use Conan. You can use whichever one you like. Just pick one and don't open an issue on my GitHub repository complaining that you don't know how to copy header files. Though I will do my best to gracefully answer you. I promise that. Conan is the C++ package manager. That's how we like to sell it. It supports all Python platforms. It's written in Python. Whew, tongue twister for you. It supports a ton of different build systems. I'm going to focus on CMake because that's my bread and butter. But if you're into Bazel, there's support for that. If you're an Auto Tools GNU toolchain type of guy, there's support for that. Mesons, I saw in the new 151 release that came out a few weeks ago. There's support for you guys too. So pretty much whatever you want, there's a build tool integration for you. And what Conan provides is absolute visibility on your dependency graph. And there's some huge improvements in Conan 2.0. So what I will be focusing on is Conan 151, which was released a few weeks ago. But Conan 2 is just around the corner. General availability is going to be coming out in the next 2 months, and the betas are already out. So you'll notice at the bottom of my slides, there'll be some teasers, nice some Conan 2 version of the commands. And I encourage you to go home and try them. You can create and reuse binaries. So Conan knows how C++ is. It knows settings. It knows environment variables. It knows all those nasty things we like to sneak into our binaries. And it can track them for you. You can create profiles, different configurations, and it makes it really easy. Decentralized. You can host your own packages, your own recipes. You're not tied to the one central ConanCenter index. You can have your own server and you can host your own packages. If they're smaller scale, they're not made for distribution across public, or if you don't want to support all the workflows that ConanCenter does, and it makes it really easy. The best part about Conan for me is it's extensible and customizable. I come from a DevOps background. I had to deploy on Alpine. I had to deal with different C runtime implementations. I had to cross-compile the code for glibc and as well as muscle C. And being able to track that in Conan and have pre-compiled binaries for both of those C runtimes so I can deploy an Alpine on the cloud and let my developers work on Ubuntu, godsend of saving time. So if you want to find a package, you have one in mind that you're already using, because 80% of you probably have this problem. There's two options for you. You can go online, conans.io/center, and you can also search for the command line, which is quite convenient. So we go to ConanCenter, type our nice drogon. Well, I didn't even spell it correctly. And look at that, it actually works for you. You can see the latest version is 1.7.5 that's been made available. The downloads are 0. Bane of my existence. As the Conan developer advocate, I know how important it is for everybody to see the download counter on your project, and the fact that this one's broken drives me nuts. And if we go here, there's tons of different things we can look at. Don't do live demos. That's not the one I was looking for. I apologize. This is why you do screenshots. And it'll give you a nice breakdown of all the different tools and integrations. There's a fancy little use it tab. It shows you how to work for CMake, all your different projects. But I'm going to take you through it here today. So if you wanted to install this on the system, ConanCenter is the default remote. That's what we call them in Conan land. And it'll automatically be configured when you install Conan. So if you type Conan install Drogon 1.75 at, the little fancy way of saying it's a reference, you can change your settings. So, and you can specify your generator. So the new way of working in Conan, some of you might be familiar with the older integrations if you're familiar with Conan, but the new ones are CMake deps and CMake toolchain. So CMake deps over here is going to generate the find package modules that CMake already uses, has support for ages. It's very easy. Now, sometimes you want to compile for a different compiler that's not supported. My Mac is running the latest Xcode toolchain with Apple Clang 13, which is not available yet. So in my second snippet, you can see I specified these extra build missing, and that's a really convenient way. So if we take a look at these and break these down, right? So you can do Conan install, you have package/name. You can also specify a path if you're installing from your local environment. We can change our settings at the command line, which is super convenient. So compiler.version equals 12.0. That's the version of Xclang I wanted to download. And I specified the generator for CMake deps. Build missing, Conan is very smart. It will be able to know what a header-only dependency is, and it knows that it doesn't need to recompile anything for your local system. So when you do build missing, it'll only recompile the dependencies that are not binary compatible for your system. So you can get as complicated as you want. In Conan 2.0, they're going to be offering a compatibility.py script where you can actually write your own compatibility for binaries, which is a huge, huge advantage. Conan 2.0 snippet, you drop the @, terrible syntax, and you just say reference. A lot easier to remember. When you run this command, you'll see all the different dependencies that are added there for you. And you can notice there's the dragon targets release.cmake. That's the one it generated for us specifically. So what I'd like to do with you guys here today is I'd like to make a hello world program because I'm a creative C++ developer and that's what I'm good at. So if you wanted to create a new Conan project, really easy, just Conan new hello, and their template is going to be a CMake executable. You can see here we got a few different files. We got a CMake list, a Conan file.py, gives us an include.h, hello, source, CPP, and a main. And this layout is very particular. It actually is the default specified layout for CMake that Conan provides you. And with that information, it's able to do really great things of putting you in editable mode, and you can work on your packages locally if you downloaded them off the ConanCenter or off a remote server. So if we take a look at some of these basic attributes that they have, name, version, pretty easy. License, those are always important. Author, this is mostly written in the mindset for ConanCenter where you're going to be publishing it to the public. So perhaps your license is MIT or Apache. URL, description, topics. This is actually how you can search on ConanCenter index. So if you put really good tags and someone types HTTP server in ConanCenter, it'll actually come up, which is really nice for promoting your project. And that last one, binary compatibility. Settings, you got your operating system, compiler, build type, and your architecture. I saw just the other day, there was a pull request for the Android NDK support. So if you were to cross-compile from Linux to your Android, you can actually specify which operating system, which compiler to use, specify your environment variables pointing to the right compiler, and Conan will capture all that and keep that in its package ID. So you golly, these microphones. So you can actually keep track of which packages you're looking for and which settings you need. In the new yes, you can absolutely do that. It'll understand the different settings. You can upload the binaries for both, and you can download them on the actual target system you're trying to run on. I'm not going to talk about the dual profile build method, but that is exactly what you would look for if you want to search on your own afterwards. The key heart of our ConanFile.py is going to be these four functions: layout, generate, build, and package. Layout is how your source files are organized. So typically you'll have an include directory, a source directory, probably a build folder where you're going to put all the extra files that you're going to put in your git ignore. Generate is probably the magic that's going to be happening here, and I'm going to go quite a bit into that afterwards for you guys. But build, most of us are probably familiar with the CMake build command. That's exactly what's going to happen over here. And CMake install for package. So assuming you set up your targets correctly to be installed, this should be pretty painless experience. So if we wanted to build and run our template, our hello world example, you would do Conan install, build default Conan file. So that little snippet here is the workaround for 1.0 compatibility towards 2.0. So you can ignore that for now. It's going to go away very soon. And the shorthand is just PR-B. I put it over here when I ran the command for you. And this will install all of our dependencies. It'll generate a Conan toolchain CMake file. So I run Conan install Conan. Is that legible, hopefully? So if I run Conan install on my Conan file, wow, live demos. Woohoo! Success, teamwork, pair programming. I am so happy. All right, that's why I take screenshots. That would have generated a slew of files for us inside of our default CMake layout, where you would actually have access to inspect and look at these. So when we configure CMake locally, we're going to use CMake's presets. Now, who here is familiar with CMake presets and has used them? Oh, 6 hands. So these came out in CMake 14, 18-ish. So quite a recent feature in CMake timeline. And this allows your tool chains, your build systems, your package managers to tell CMake where all your files are, what configurations you want to run. So Conan integrates like this with CMake. It's completely transparent. So if you write good CMake, you can use Conan or not use Conan. And it gives your consumers of your project the flexibility as well. So when you use and load the preset, it's going to automatically detect the CMake toolchain file, and it's going to use the Conan toolchain.cmake. And this is going to have all of your install prefixes, module prefixes. If your packages have custom build module scripts that they provide at installation, those will be packaged as well and loaded in for you. And you'll have access to everything as if you did the CMake install yourself and you called find package. To build, just CMake build, build release. That's the subfolder from the Conan layout. And there is a hello world executable, the default that it generates. And it just hello world release. Yay, we're so successful in life. So if we want to add our dependencies, very, very easy. If we just add 3 lines for the requirement, we're going to say Dragon 175. We're going to say add our CMake depths generator. And inside of CMake, we call find package. We set the compiler standard to C++14, and we do target link libraries. And in our main, we just add and register the default app handler that Dragon provides. And that's it. You're done. You didn't have to worry about Boost. You didn't have to worry about OpenSSL or zlib, and I don't even know what others were on the list because I didn't remember it because it was too long. And that's it. You're done. So congratulations. You just added a huge dependency that was C++ 14 that had 18 different bajillion dependencies, and you got it to compile right away. So if we did Conan install again after making those changes, we would see all those new CMake depths files. And I believe I had a screenshot right here. So all of these are the CMake find modules that it's actually looking for. And you can see them here on the screenshot on the right-hand side. And your workflow is the same, right? CMake preset released, we're going to reconfigure CMake, build, and then if you run it, you'll have your Dragon server up and running with all your dependencies statically linked into your executable. Makes it super convenient. Was that easy? Could you remember 15 lines of diff? I convinced you all. I sold it to you. I see those smiles. So it's great that you have your dependencies, but that's probably not the end of your job. You also have to put this in some CI/CD system, and there's going to be some unit tests and whatnot running. Or perhaps, Allison, shoot. So that's an excellent question. So the way Conan works is it has a local cache. So by default, in your Conan user home directory is where that information would be saved. And inside there, you'll see the reference literally of the name, the full name that Conan will unravel for you. So in this case, it would be drogon /1.75/_/_, and then some more random SHAs that you're not going to understand. And all the packages are going to get the same treatment, and all the files are going to be there. And in the CMake files that it generates, when it does the add library import, it'll actually pass the files to your Conan cache. So all the files that it will download, unpack, the precompiled binaries, it'll save all of those in your cache and reference those at build time when you run your command. Yes, magic. So the question was, if you have two projects with the same dependencies, it will only download it once and cache it once, which makes it really easy when you're working with something like FMT, and one project is still 7 and the other one's updated to 8. You can have both of those versions as well. So it makes it very easy and flexible, and it saves you a ton of time. So when I like to work locally, I always like, oh, we have another question, shoot. If you make any changes, you have to get to this. Like if you were to edit your local cache files. So yeah, so Conan tracks packages, recipes at one level, and binaries at another. And you can do some really fun, fancy things. There is a setting called revisions enabled. Ooh, this is my favorite setting of all time. And what it'll actually do is track any changes you make to the source code of the project as well as the recipe. So if you change anything and you build it and you upload a new version, even if you didn't change the semantic versioning, you didn't bump the version like a good developer should, you can actually track those changes. Now you're gonna pull out the good stuff. This is me. This is my GitHub. I have a sample project called user management. It's been my showcase project. Helped me get my first job, my second job, my third job. And you can notice my last commit, if you can read that, is upgrade to Conan 1.51, 8 days ago. This is a RESTful web API, and I have a cute little backend that's written in C++, and I use something called a lock file. This is a really fun, convenient way of really pinning down and locking your dependencies. And you can notice here, there's this extra hash at the end. And that is the recipe revision. And with that, even if somebody in the public makes a change and the pull request gets approved to ConanCenter and there's a new change published, I won't automatically download it. And it actually saves me in a lot of places because some of the changes could be breaking. So when they add new features, if I haven't upgraded my Conan client in my build system, it's this revisions feature that I rely on. My favorite tidbit is it's going to be default in 2.0, so you don't even have to worry about it in the near future. So as a developer, I almost never work in release, and I always work from debug, and I never use Make. I always use Ninja because I'm lazy, and if I actually have to wait for Make to finish, I'd probably go get a coffee. And I'd probably go to the cafeteria too much to have snacks, as you've probably discovered. So what I like to do is I like to actually have configuration files and settings that are specified to my personal taste. And you can see in this example, I'm compiling with the build type debug. So we have S build type debug, and we have this beautiful long line of tools, CMake, CMake toolchain generator, Ninja. And this will change our presets that Conan generates for CMake. Right, so CMake has this way of tools being able to integrate it, and Conan transparently goes through these processes. So you can change your runtime generator to Ninja, and you can use and call Ninja. So you can see in my little screenshot over here, I had kept my release, and it has make. There's a nice little hello executable, but I also have my debug folder with my build.ninja script, and that's most of the time where I'm working, where I'm testing, and how I'm using it. Settings, those are the general attributes for all of the platform for your binary compatibility that you're working with. Configurations are the properties for your build systems that you're working with. So if you had a specific CMake setting, in my case, the generator, that's where those would go. And remembering these and specifying them in the command line is an absolute hell. So I'm going to teach you making profiles because I don't want you to memorize the command line. Profiles are something that you can specify and you can very easily write. These two examples are for the Ninja and debug. So you can see I have include default. So by default, Conan will detect your environment and generate a profile. And you saw that earlier with the CMake profile build default that I'm probably getting the command line wrong for, so don't quote me. And I add my configuration, and I have my same thing as the command line, right? CMake tools, chain generator Ninja. And when I pass Conan install, I just do PR Ninja. Quick and easy like that. And I could have made these just one profile. So I could have put my settings conf in one file and just passed PR my PR, and it would have worked. So if you want to publish a package, this is probably the #1 reason why you're using Conan in the first place. It's because you want to be able to share your binaries. The command to generate a package is Conan create, just Conan file, and it'll read all the attributes, all your settings, and it'll run with it. And It's the same syntax as install. So you can specify profiles, settings, configurations, etc. And you can do Conan upload. Hello 0.1, that was the project that I was working on to make this presentation. And that was my Drogon Hello World. And it's that easy. So somebody else can go to their system, they can type Conan install hello 0.1, and they'd get the binary, assuming I actually uploaded the right settings that they were using, because what are the odds somebody has the same compiler version as me? If you're an open source author, and I strongly encourage everybody, if you are, is you can submit a pull request to ConanCenter. So it's GitHub ConanCenter index. And we have some gorgeous doc subfolder. And if you want to learn how to add a package yourself, that's how you would go about doing it. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Yes. By default, what we do in the Conan community, where's a good place to find this? Is there is a shared option. So if I go find a good recipe, we like 7-zip. Everybody likes to work with compressed files. 12 months, that'll still be there. Wow, did I pick a bad example on the first one? So you'll notice here, we have something called options. So most packages have different settings you can flick on and off that actually impacts the binary that it generates. You can see shared here, and Conan automatically supports this one. So if you put shared true, you can even use a wildcard if I'm not mistaken. So you can do Conan install -O, and you can put wildcard : shared equals true, and all your dependencies will be installed and shared. And it'll pass the correct settings, the build share CMake file, if you're using that one, for instance. So if you do build from source, it knows how to manage it. The other one that's managed for you in almost all the recipes is fpic. I don't know what that does, but I know it's important. So it's there as well for y'all. For this one, you can see FMT has aliases and the OS API. So depending which options you pick, it'll actually generate a different binary with different symbols that are installed. So you can track these different things with Conan. Allison? Of the binaries? So we are looking at ConanCenter index. This is where the Conan community hosts all of their recipes. The way that we've taken to guarantee the security is that every change has to go through the community and be reviewed by the community. Currently, the rules are there needs to be at least 2 approvals on every pull request. So if you try to make a change, you try to add something different to the recipe that would compromise it, the reviewers in the community have the chance to catch it. If you are an author and you write bad code, guilty, and you upload the dependency yourself, we won't review your code for you. So if you introduce security vulnerabilities in the code, that won't get caught. But in terms of the pipeline that the projects get published to the community, we do our best to make sure that there's no unintended side effects. There's nobody trying to put malicious code into these packages. I'm sure we're all familiar with incidents like SolarWinds or some of the famous Node.js npm install attacks. Those are definitely not something you're going to find in Conan. Yes. 1,353 the last time I checked. GitHub's actually very nice. If you click on recipes, it'll actually tell you there's too many, and it's still 1,353. Pull requests. So you can notice here on GitHub, there's 166 pull requests. If we check this out, you'll notice that there's different activities. So we have String View Lite. I absolutely love this guy. His work for his non-STD packages are brilliant. And he's adding version 1.70 to his recipe. So my involvement in this community has been going on for quite a while. And one of the things I'm going to take the chance to promote is we have community resources. And you'll notice here there's quite a few different bots. We have updatable recipes. So if you write a recipe and you're published on GitHub, there's a bot that knows how to read releases on GitHub and automatically alert us to new updates. So you don't have to go chasing down. It'll actually create, I'll take a show you here. So you can see there's different projects that all have different things. We sort on pull requests. You can see a lot of these already have pull requests open, but you can always click the open one button on the far right. Font's a little hard to see, I apologize, but you can click on it and open a pull request for your project. The one that I've personally worked on is called Pending Review. And this is a list of all the pull requests that are open that are waiting for reviews. And there's currently 34 of them, and there's quite a long list. And you can see there's a few ready to merge with some warnings. So something's not right, so the bot's not merging it. And all of these are different ones. So for the instance of a new project, we have this one here, which is 12015 by Theorix. It's a AN1C compiler, and this is a new recipe he's adding. I should know this better because apparently I clicked approve on it. And in this pull request, he's adding version 0.29. You can see in the diff in the top right, it's all new files, 0 deletions. So it's a completely new recipe that he's adding. So if you're an author of a library and you contribute to a library and you want your library to be available with Conan, there's a very easy way to get it in. Yeah. Yes. Ah, shucks. I promised earlier I wouldn't do any sales pitch. So if you want to host your own server, the easiest way is going to be using JFrog's Artifactory. I just pull mine up for you. And I can sign in, I can manage all my own. It's definitely companies. It's definitely companies. To be at a scale where you need to manage and track binaries, it's usually not an individual. I use it in my own personal projects because I have large dependency trees, and and this platform is free, so you can sign up for a free JFrog platform and you can use it. So it's kind of convenient, but it's mostly predominantly businesses that use it. Yes, most often. Is that legible? If I do Conan remote list. And you can see I have the ConanCenter.io, which is the default community one. And I also have user management, which points to my SuperFrogs instance of Artifactory that I have with all my own. So my personal project, as I alluded to, is built for Alpine and it's deployed on the cloud. So I have a different settings model than the default one. So in order to host my own binaries with the knowledge of glibc, I actually have to pull them through my own Artifactory instance to get my binaries. Because obviously ConanCenter doesn't track the binary compatibility for you. God, I wish it did. So I have my own instance that does it. I have binaries for myself. For the most part, yes. I follow a lot on Slack and Reddit, and I think almost all of the open source developers just use straight what ConanCenter gives us. The way the infrastructure behind it is done is that most of the nicky-picky binary compatibilities are set old enough that you probably won't notice. So even if you're running Ubuntu 16.04 and you download the latest binaries, they'll still work, even if it's for a newer GCC that Ubuntu 16.04 didn't ship with. So for the most part, open source developers don't really need to worry. They don't need an Artifactory instance to support different binaries. Yes. It won't detect that you have the project in GitHub, so you'll have to open up the very first pull request to say, hey, I want this. It detects the updates. Oh, no, that'd be, golly, GitHub is massive. Yeah. Nope. So namespaces are definitely a little bit of a personal preference, especially when it comes to C++ developers. Some projects do, and we typically encourage people who are hosting their own community ones to do this. So I didn't show you any examples, but the full syntax for a package name can actually have a username and channel. So you can do drogon /1.75 at print-chrismc, it's me, /stable. And you can install and download and reference that full user channel as well. The default user and channel for ConanCenter index is obviously none, which is why you haven't seen any in this instance, because I'm just using the community recipes. Shoot, Richard. They're kept separately, so you can actually see the entire graph. There is Conan graph info. Shucks. I'm not the guy who memorizes the command line. Or we'll get there, we'll get there, we'll get there. We got a few more minutes before they kick me out. Shucks. I don't want to log in. All right. I wish I could show it to you. But no, it doesn't. So you can actually use this command, Conan infograph, and it'll give you a nice, beautiful table, and it'll show you all your dependencies. And your dependency will be separate to all the others. So you can actually see your whole graph of what it looks like and how it works. Wow. Conan supports something called version ranges. Personally, I despise them, and they almost never work because C++ developers are terrible. Shame on all of you. Shame. But most projects don't actually use something like semantic versioning. So it's really hard to write version ranges that are consistent and reliable, but there is support for that. So if your business always works in semantic versioning and you can trust that 1.75 or 1.7.5 is less than and binary compatible with 1.75.6, for instance, with Drogo would have been, then you could specify that in your version range and you could download a different version and it would update and compute a different package ID for you depending on the semantic range. So yes. Yes, you understand the concept. That's exactly it. I'm going to pick on Boost for not using semantic versioning. There's no ABI guarantee between the two, right? So you would fall in the trap right away of like, if you picked a Boost version that was one minor higher, it wouldn't be compatible. But yes, you could do that, and Conan does support that. So the default tools.version that's supported in the Conan file, it actually understands these things. And I don't have an example for you, but if you inspected the inner workings of some of the output files, you would actually see for Drogo, it would call it 1.x.y instead of the 1.75, because internally it's thinking it's semantic versioning, because that's the default behavior. Any final questions? I will hand it back over to Max so we can do the wrap up. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, so grab yourself a magazine. Well, let's thank our speaker again. And the last thing I have on here is to invite y'all to come get dinner with us at Fibber McGee's, which is on Murphy Avenue, down the street from here in Sunnyvale. Oh yeah, the Discord. You can find that on the Meetup page. Oh.
All right, so we're now closing bids for the Echo, and I'm going to tally and see who paid me off the highest to win. So apparently Pranay Surana. Pranay, give him a big round of applause. Okay, so you win the Echo show. I have some paperwork you need to sign, but thank you very much. And thanks everybody for coming to the meetup tonight at JFrog, for our great hosts and for excellent presenters. So yeah, frogs as well. Take frogs, take magazines, and come to CPPCon.